So in my opinion, one of the funnest parts of Arena Breakout Infinite is finding really cool weapon builds, and more specifically, finding really cool weapon builds that aren't incredibly expensive. So I wanted to start to do budget builds of different weapons that are 150k or below. And these are still going to be really strong builds, but they're not going to be 250,000 or more, because keep in mind, the best grip in the game is currently going for like 100,000. So a full weapon at 150k is pretty good. So today we're going to be taking a look at a budget build for the AK-102, which is the 5.56 AK. And this was one of my favorite weapons in Escape from Tarkov. I thought it was underrated there, and I think this weapon is underrated in Arena Breakout as well. And for 150k, you're going to be getting this build, or at least around 150k. So you're going to be getting a weapon that can use longer range sights. I like the 1x 4x sight. I think it's one of the best sights in the game. And it's much cheaper than a lot of the other long range variable zoom sights. But if you just want to use like a holographic or something like that, you can do that as well. Just keep in mind, if you're trying to use a more expensive scope, that will make the build more expensive. This one's going to be silenced, and the stats are going to be pretty good at 76 vertical recoil, 60 horizontal, and 44 ergonomics. We are using a 30 rounder. If you want to go up to 60 rounders, those are going to be a bit more as well. But starting off, we have the pistol grip, and we're going to be using the lightweight AK rear grip. This is a really cheap grip for how much ergo it gives you. Then for the stock, we're going to be using the RPK-16 expandable tube, and on that we're going to be using the collapsible lightweight stock. Just a really good stock for the price. Then our sight is going to be sitting on the AK custom rail dust cover, and again, I'm using the 1x 4x. You can use whatever sight you want. And then for our handguard, I'm currently using the AK series wooden 10x63 handguard. So the handguard with the built-in wooden stock, this is generally just pretty cheap for the stats it actually gives. This full build right now with that is a little over 150k. That handguard is 23k. Now there is also another option that is usually around a similar price. And for that, you're going to use the AK series CAA polymer front handguard. And then on that, you're going to be using the alloy tactical front grip. Now this is usually around the same price. And right now it's 14k for that handguard and 11k for the front grip. So that's a little bit more expensive than the wooden handguard, but it does give a decent bit of additional stats, especially for how cheap it is. You get 2 more vertical recoil, 4 more horizontal. So if you want to spend a little bit more, you can do that. Both of them are still going to keep you right around 150k. And then for our muzzle devices, we're going to be using the DT threaded muzzle adapter, and on that you have the 46 multi-caliber suppressor. This is just going to be a cheaper suppressor for this weapon, and overall this build is going to give you really good stats. And again, it's going to sit right around 150k. Right now it's a little under 150k, so it's going to sit right around there. The stats are really good. You can use a longer range sight, which this is 5.56, so it has that good accuracy. Overall, this is one of the best budget builds in the game for the price to performance of this weapon. Now, if you want to save some more money and get some additional stats but not be silenced, you have, I think, 2 different options. You have the best non-silence muzzle adapter, which is the FA Precision Flash Suppressor. It's 13k, which is going to be cheaper than your suppressor and your adapter. It gives 4 more vertical recoil, 5 more horizontal, and 1 more ergo. Or you can go for even much cheaper at 6k with the AR-15 Universal Flash Suppressor. It's still going to give you an increase for both your recoils and your ergo, and it's only going to be like 6k. So you could use this, and then you could spend a bit more on, say, a handguard and a better grip, and it's going to give you more stats. It's just going to be loud, which generally I just like sticking with suppressors. I think a lot of the times in Arena Breakout Infinite, if you're using loud weapons, a lot of people try to sprint over to you and you just give away your position a lot more. But if you like using loud weapons or are fine with it, it's going to be much cheaper and allow you to either just save money or just put that money back into somewhere else of the build to get even better stats. Now this video is primarily focused on the build itself, but I always want to go over ammo to give the different options you have. You're pretty much not going to be using any of the 3 white ammos, so you have pretty much 2 options with a build like this. You either have M855, which is a level 3 penning, 50 base damage, which is decent, 34 pen, and 13.3 armor damage. Also gives you increased accuracy, which is pretty nice. Again, 5.56 is really good at longer ranges, so even though the bullets aren't the best for just pure damage or pure penning, they're really accurate at long ranges. That's around 530 right now, so a pretty cheap round for level 3 penning. And then you have one above that, which is level 4 penning, which is M855A1, currently at 1650 a round or 1400 a round. They change quite a bit, but I would say on average 1500 a round. These again are class 4 penning, 47 base damage, 40 pen, 20 armor damage, which is pretty decent armor damage for this. So if you keep coming across really armored people or people with higher armor that you're having difficulty killing, you can use M855A1. I've actually been doing pretty well with just M855, and this is a budget weapon, so generally M855 is actually going to work really well with a weapon like this, and you're going to be able to bring more of it if you want to. So if you're getting into more fights or you're just spraying down enemies, you can use a lot more M855 before it becomes worth to use M855A1. And with a build like this, I generally would not be using M995. I would definitely be saving that for much more expensive weapon builds. And another thing you can do with this build is you can go and get one 60 rounder, which is usually going to be around 25 to 30k. So instead of bringing 3 30 rounders, which is usually what I do, you would bring one 60 rounder and one 30 rounder. And the 60 rounder, as you use it, you would just reload and keep loading up that 60 rounder. Now what this does is if you're getting in fights with bigger groups, which commonly happens in Arena Breakout Infinite, and you keep feeling like you're running out of ammo in your 30 rounders and dying because of it, you can have that 160 rounder that's always loaded up. So when you get in a fight, you have that 60 rounds you have access to without having to reload. Now this is going to be a bit more expensive, having 160 and 130 instead of like 330s, but it's actually not that crazy expensive compared to just having 330s. So this is definitely another good option if you want to do that. But that's the entirety of this build. This is one of my favorite weapons in the game, and this build is incredibly strong for how cheap it is. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.
Maybe two. Nice, bro. One dead. Okay.